Welcome back to ASMR Soldier. Today, I'm going to be doing a little bit of reading, and it's one of my absolute favorite books of all time. I've read this book about 2 or 3 times. When I used to be a bouncer, all I had to do was sit on a stool and check IDs, and I could not leave that area. So I would just bring books and read them. Today's book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving. And it's got a very catchy title because it's right in your face and it seems very counterintuitive, but some of the stuff they say on here is just really good advice. So let's go ahead and start. Try to get some triggers. A little rubber. I'm going to take this off. Okay, so we'll go ahead and start directly with chapter 1. All right. Here's chapter 1. It's called Don't Try. All right, you don't want to try. Apparently, you don't want to try. Let's get straight to it. Charles Bukowski was an alcoholic, a womanizer, a chronic gambler, a loot, a cheapskate, a deadbeat, and on his worst days, a poet. He's probably the last person on earth you would ever look to for life advice or expect to see in any sort of self-help book. Which is why he's the perfect place to start. Bukowski wanted to be a writer, but for decades his work was rejected by almost every magazine, newspaper, journal, agent, and publisher he submitted to. His work was horrible, they said, crude, disgusting, depraved. And as the stakes of rejection slips piled up, the weight of his failures pushed him deep into an alcohol-fueled depression that would follow him for most of his life. Bukowski had a day job as a letter filer at a post office. He got paid I'm trying not to curse, so I'm just gonna keep the expletives out. He did not get paid a lot of money and spent most of it on booze. He gambled away the rest at the racetracks. At night, he would drink alone and sometimes hammer out poetry on his beat-up old typewriter. Often, he'd wake up on the floor, having passed out the night before. 30 years went by like this, most of it meaningless blur of alcohol, drugs, gambling, and prostitutes. Then, when Bukowski was 50, after a lifetime of failure and self-loathing, an editor at a small independent publishing house took a strange interest in him. The editor couldn't offer Bukowski much money or much promise of sales, but he had a weird affection for the drunk loser, so he decided to take a chance on him. It was the first real shot Bukowski ever had gotten, and he realized probably the only one he would ever get. Bukowski wrote back to the editor, "I have one of 2 choices. Stay in the post office and go crazy, or stay out here and play at writer and starve. I have decided to starve." Upon signing the contract, Bukowski wrote his first novel in 3 weeks. It was called simply Post Office. In the dedication, he wrote, "Dedicated to nobody." Bukowski would make it as a novelist and poet. He would go on and publish 6 novels and hundreds of poems, selling over 2 million copies of his book. His popularity defied everyone's expectation, particularly his own. Stories like Bukowski's are the bread and butter of our cultural narrative. Bukowski's life embodies the American dream. A man fights for what he wants, never gives up, and eventually achieves his wildest dreams. It's practically a movie writing waiting to happen. We all look at stories like Bukowski and say, see, he never gave up. He never stopped trying. He always believed in himself. He persisted against all the odds and made something of himself. It is then strange that on Bukowski's tombstone, the epitaph, English is my second language, it said, don't try. See, despite the book sales and the fame, Bukowski was a loser. He knew it, and his success stemmed not from some determination to be a winner, but from the fact that he knew he was a loser, accepted it, and then he wrote honestly about it. He never tried to be anything other than what he was. The genius in Bukowski's work was not in overcoming unbelievable odds and developing himself into a shining literary light. It was the opposite. It was his simple ability to completely, unflinchingly honest with himself, especially the worst parts of himself, and to share his feelings without hesitation or doubt. This is the real story of Bukowski's success. His comfort with himself as a failure, Bukowski didn't give about success. Even after his fame, he still showed up to poetry readings, hammered, and verbally abused people in his audience. He still exposed himself in public and tried to sleep with every woman he could find. Fame and success didn't make him a better person, nor was it by becoming a better person that he became famous and successful. Self-improvement and success often occur together, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're the same thing. Our culture today is obsessively focused on unrealistic, positive expectations. Be happier, be healthier, be the best, better than the rest, be smarter, faster, richer, sexier, more popular, more productive, more envied, and more admired. Be perfect and amazed and crap out 12-carat nuggets before breakfast each morning while kissing your self-ready spouse and 2.5 kids goodbye. Then fly your helicopter to your wonderfully fulfilling job where you spend your days doing incredibly meaningful work that's likely to save the planet one day. But when you stop and really think about it, conventional life advice, all the positive and happy self-help stuff we hear all the time, is actually fixating on what you lack. It lessers on what you perceive your personal shortcomings and failures to already be, and then emphasize them for you. You learn about the best ways to make money because you feel you don't have enough money already. You stand in front of the mirror and repeat affirmations saying that you're beautiful because you feel as though you're not beautiful already. You follow dating and relationship advice because you feel that you're unloved already. You try goofy visualization exercises about being more successful because you feel as though you aren't successful enough already. Ironically, this fixation on the positive, on what's better, what's superior, only serves to remind us over and over of what we are not, of what we lack, of what we should have been but failed to be. After all, no truly happy person feels the need to stand in front of a mirror and recite that she's happy. She just is. There's a saying in Texas, the smallest dog barks the loudest. A confident man doesn't feel a need to prove that he is confident. A rich woman doesn't feel a need to convince everyone that she's rich. Either you are or you aren't. If you're dreaming of something all the time, then you're reinforcing that some unconscious reality over and over that you are not that. Everyone in their TV commercials wants you to believe that the key to a good life is a nicer job, or a more rugged car, or a prettier girlfriend, or a hot tub with an inflatable pool for the kids. The world is constantly telling you that the path to a better life is more and more and more. Buy more, own more, make more, have more sex, be more. You are constantly bombarded with messages to give that word about everything all the time. Give a F about a new TV, about a better vacation than your coworkers, about buying the new lawn ornaments, about having the right kind of selfie stick. Why? My guess, because caring about more stuff is good for business. And while there is nothing wrong with good business, the problem is that giving too many F's is bad for your mental health. It causes you to become overly attached to the superficial and fake. Oh, man, this is a good chapter. Where to leave the fake? To dedicate your life to chasing a mirage of happiness and satisfaction. The key to a good life is not giving an F about more. It's about giving an F about less. About only what is truly and immediate and important. And this is like a little part right here. It says, the feedback loop from hell. There's an insidious quirk to your brain that, if you let it, can drive you absolutely batty. Tell me if this sounds familiar to you. You get anxious about confronting someone in your life. That anxiety cripples you, and you start wondering why you're so anxious. Now you're becoming anxious about becoming anxious. Oh no, doubly anxious. Now you're anxious about your anxiety, which is causing more anxiety. Quick, where's the whiskey? Or let's say you have an anger problem. You get pissed off at the stupidest, most insane stuff, and you have no idea why. I've personally suffered from this. And the fact that you get pissed off so easily starts to piss you off even more. And then in your petty rage, you realize you're being angry all the time makes you a shallow and mean person. And you hate this. You hate it so much that you get angry at yourself. Now look at you. You're angry at yourself, getting angry about being angry. F you all. Here's a... F you all. Here, have a fist. That was funny. I'm sorry. I'm trying not to break character, but that was hilarious. Oh, screw it. I'll curse. All right. Fuck you all. Here, have a fist. Man, that reminded me of my young 20s, late teenage years. I would just get mad about everything. And this dang camera does not want to keep focus. All right, back to the book. Or you're so weird about doing the right thing all the time that you become worried about how much you're worrying. Or you feel so guilty for every mistake you make that you begin to feel guilty about how guilty you're feeling. Or you get sad and alone so often that it makes you feel even more sad and alone just thinking about it. Welcome to the feedback loop from hell. Chances are you've engaged in it more than a few times. Maybe you're engaging in it right now. God, I do the feedback loop all the time. I'm such a loser for doing it. I should stop. Oh my God. I feel like such a loser for calling myself a loser. I should stop calling myself a loser. Oh, fuck. I'm doing it again. See? I'm a loser. Calm down, amigo. Believe it or not, this is part of the beauty of being a human. Very few animals on Earth have the ability to think cognate thoughts to begin with. But we humans have the luxury of being able to have thoughts about our thoughts. Oh, that's very true. So I can think about watching Miley Cyrus videos on YouTube and then immediately think about what a sicko I am for wanting to watch Miley Cyrus videos on YouTube. Ah, the miracle of consciousness. Now, here's the problem. Our society today, through the wonders of consumer culture and hey, look, my life is cooler than yours, social media, has bred a whole generation of people who believe that having these negative experiences, anxiety, fear, guilt, etc., is totally not okay. I mean, if you look at your Facebook feed, everybody there's having a grand old time. Look, 8 people got married this week, and some 16-year-old on TV got a Ferrari for her birthday. And another kid just made $2 billion inventing an app that automatically delivers you more toilet paper when you run out. Meanwhile, you're stuck at home flossing your cat, and you can't help but think your life sucks even more than your thoughts. The feedback loop from hell has become a borderline epidemic, making many of us overlay stress, overlay neurotic, and overly. I told you guys, English is my second language. Okay, overly stressed, overly neurotic, and overly self-loathing. Back in Grandpa's day, he would feel like crap and think to himself, gee whiz, I sure do feel like a cow turd today. But hey, I guess that's just life. Back to shoveling hay. But now, if you feel like crap for even 5 minutes, you're bombarded with 350 images of people totally happy. And having amazing lives, and it's impossible to not feel like there's something wrong with you. It's the last part that gets us in trouble. We feel bad about feeling bad. We feel guilty for feeling guilty. We get angry about getting angry. We get anxious about feeling anxious. What's wrong with me? This is why you're not giving a fuck is so key. This is why it's going to save the world. And it's going to save it by accepting that the world is totally fucked and that's all right. Because it's always been that way and always will be. By not giving a fuck that you feel bad, your short circuit feedback loop from hell, you say to yourself, I feel like crap. But who gives a fuck? And then as if sprinkled by magic fuck-giving fairy dust, you stop hating yourself for feeling so bad. George Orwell said that to see what's in front of one's nose requires a constant struggle. Well, the solution to our stress and anxiety is right there in front of our noses, and we're too busy watching adult films and advertisements for ab machines that don't work, wondering why we're not banging a hot blonde with a rockin' six-pack to notice. We joke online about first world problems, but we really have become victims of our own success. Stress-related health issues, anxiety disorders, and cases of depressions have skyrocketed over the past 30 years, despite the fact that everyone has a flat-screen TV and can have the groceries delivered. Our crisis is no longer material. It's existential. It's spiritual. We have so much stuff and so many opportunities that we don't even know what to give a fuck about anymore. Because there's an infinite amount of things we can now see or know. There are also an infinite number of ways we can discover that we didn't measure up, that we're not good enough, that things aren't as great as they could be. And this rips us apart inside. Because here's the thing that's wrong with all of the how to be happy stuff that's been shared 8 billion times on Facebook in the past few years. Here's what nobody realizes about all this crap. A desire to be more positive experience it itself a negative experience. And paradoxically, the acceptance of one's negative experience is itself a positive experience. This is a total mindfuck. So I'll give you a minute to unpretzel your brain and maybe read that again. Wanting positive experience is a negative experience. Accepting negative experience is a positive experience. That's deep. For a guy that curses a lot in his book, that's pretty deep. It's what the philosopher Alan Watts used to refer to as the backwards law. The idea that the more you pursue feeling better all the time, the less satisfied you become, as pursuing something only reinforces the fact that you lack it in the first place. The more you desperately want to be rich, the more poor and unworthy you feel. Regardless of how much money you actually make, the more you desperately want to be sexy and desired, the uglier you come to see yourself. Regardless of your actual physical appearance, the more you desperately want to be happy and loved, the lonelier and more afraid you become, regardless of those who surround you. The more you want to be spiritually enlightened, the more self-centered and shallow you become in trying to get there. It is like this. One time I tripped on acid, and it felt like the more I walked towards a house, the farther away the house got from me. And yes, I just used my LSD hallucinations to make a philosophical point about happiness. No F's given. As the existential philosopher Albert Camus said, and I'm pretty sure he wasn't on LSD at the time, you would be happier if you continue to search for what happiness consists of. You will never live if you are looking for the meaning of life. Or put it more simply, don't try. Now, I know you're saying, Mark, this is making my nipples all hard. But what about the Camaro I've been saving up for? What about the beach body I've been starving myself for? After all, I paid a lot of money for that ab machine. What about the big house on the lake I've been dreaming of? If I stop giving an F about those things, well then I'll never achieve anything. I don't want that to happen, do I? So glad you asked. Ever notice that sometimes when you care less about something, you do better at it? Notice how it's often the person who is least invested in the success of something that actually ends up achieving it. Notice how sometimes when you stop giving an F, everything seems to fall into place. What's with that? What's interesting about the backwards law is that it's called backwards for a reason. Not giving an F works in reverse. If pursuing the positive is a negative, then you're pursuing the negative generates the positive. The pain you pursue in the gym results in a better all-around health and energy. The failures in business are what led to a better understanding of what's necessary to be successful. Being open with your insecurities paradoxically makes you more confident and charismatic around others. The pain of honest confrontation is what generates the greatest trust and respect in your relationships. Suffering through the fears and anxieties is what allows you to build courage and perseverance. Seriously, I could keep going, but you get the point. Everything worthwhile in life is won through surmounting the associated negative experience. Any attempt to escape the negative, to avoid it, or to quash it, or to silence it, only backfires. The evidence of suffering is a form of suffering. The avoidance of struggle is a struggle. The denial of failure is a failure. Hiding what is shameful is itself a form of shame. Pain is an inextricable I got it. It took me a second, but I got it. Pain is an inextricable thread in the fabric of life, and to tear it out is not only impossible, but destructive. Attempting to tear it out unravels everything else with it. To try to avoid pain is to give too many F's about pain. In contrast, if you're able to not give an F about your pain, you become unstoppable. In my life, I have given an F about many things. I have also not given an F about many things. And like the road not taken, it was the F's not given that made all the difference. Chances are you know someone in your life who, at one time or another, did not give an F and then went on to accomplish amazing feats. Perhaps there was a time in your own life when you simply did not give an F and excelled to some extraordinary heights. For example, quitting my day job in finance after only 6 weeks to start an internet business ranks pretty high up there in my own didn't give an F Hall of Fame. Same with deciding to sell most of my possessions and move to South America. F's given? None. Just went and did it. These moments of non-fuckery are the moments that most define our lives. The major switch in careers, the spontaneous choice to drop out of college and join a rock band, the decision to finally dump that deadbeat boyfriend who you've caught wearing your pantyhose a few times too many. If you've caught somebody doing that, please drop it in the comments. I want to get a good laugh out of it. Where did I leave off? Okay. To not give an F is to stare down To not give an F is to stare down life's most terrifying and difficult challenges and still take action. While not giving an F may seem simple on the surface, it's a whole new bag of burritos under the hood. I don't even know what that sentence means, but I don't give an F. Even bags of burritos sounds awesome, so let's just go with it. Most of us struggle throughout our lives by giving too many F's in situations where F's don't deserve to be given. We give too many about the rude gas station attendant who gave us our change in nickels. We give too many when a show we liked was canceled on TV. We give too many when our coworkers don't bother asking about our awesome weekend. Meanwhile, our credit cards are maxed out, our dog hates us, and Junior is snorting meth in the bathroom. Okay. Yet we're getting pissed off about nickels and everybody loves Raymond. Look, this is how it works. You're going to die one day. I know, that's kind of obvious. But I just wanted to remind you in case you'd forgotten. You and everyone you know is going to be dead soon. And in the short amount of time between here and there, you have a limited amount of F's to give. Very few, in fact. And if you go around giving them to everything and everyone without conscious thought or choice, well then, you're going to get fucked. I know I'm selecting when I say and when I don't say it, but if I say it too much on YouTube, the video might get a strike. So I'm trying not to do that while I still read to you guys. There's a subtle art to not giving an F. How to pick and choose what matters to you and what does not matter to you based on finely honed personal values. This is incredibly difficult. It takes a lifetime of practice and discipline to achieve. And you will regularly fail. But it is perhaps the most worthy struggle one can undertake in one's life. It may perhaps be the only struggle in one's life. Because when you give too many F's, when you give an F about everyone and everything, you feel that you're perpetually entitled to be comfortable and happy all the time. That everything is supposed to be just exactly the effing way you want it to be. This is a sickness, and it will eat you alive. You will see every adversary as an injustice, every challenge as a failure, every inconvenience as a personal slight, every disagreement as a betrayal. You'll be confined to your own petty, skull-sized hell, burning with entitlement and bluster, running circles around the very own personal feedback loop from hell. In constant motion, yet arriving nowhere. All right, guys, I think we're going to cut it there. We're about 3/4 of the way through the video, and it's just a lot more to read. So I think I'm going to break it up into 2 parts for that one chapter. But let me know what you think in the comments. Have you read this book before? Have you given too many F's in situations where you know that you shouldn't, or maybe now you know you shouldn't? And I think the main message about this chapter so far is not to don't try. It's to try in things that matter. Because it's like it said, a lot of the times we pursue constant happiness and constant perfection, and it's just kind of creating that loop back, solidifying in our own minds that we are not those things already, when I'm sure most of us are successful and happy, and wealthy. I don't mean buy a Ferrari tomorrow wealthy, but I mean your bills are paid, you have a roof over your head, and you have food wealthy. Guys, thank you so much for coming to this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you're off to a great weekend. This is ASMR Soldier, and remember, I've got your 6.